What's up, guys? Kris Gethin here with another episode of the Knowledge and Mileage podcast. How's everybody going out there? I know you're doing an 8-week hardcore video trainer, so maybe a little low on energy, maybe a little lethargic, your legs are heavy, restless leg syndrome, and excuses coming out of every orifice. You know why? Because I've been reading your comments within the groups, and obviously I'm getting all the messages from you, and I know that a lot of you are going through some struggles. However, there's a lot of you kicking ass and taking names. So as I've mentioned before, the first 8 episodes of this Knowledge and Mileage podcast are me going over the 8-week video trainer that is now live and free on cagedmuscle.com. Millions of people have used this video series, and I just released the reboot version of it a couple of weeks ago. And it's a daily video series that you follow: training, nutrition, supplementation, motivation. You got it. And, it's for everybody: male, female, young, old, women, men, everybody. So when it comes to a lot of the communities that I go in and follow, who are doing my program, I see that there's some of you screwing up. So I thought this week's episode will talk about your accountability to when you screw up. How are you going to be accountable to your actions? Well, I got some steps for you because I've witnessed a lot of people screw up, including yours truly. I'm the master of all screw-ups, but I do something about it. I damage control, and I make the risks more calculated as I go into the future, making sure that I am prepared. So, what do you do if you actually screw up? If you've gone to a social gathering, you've eaten the wrong food, if you missed out on a cardio, or you blatantly know that you're eating the wrong food, but you justify it and you say, well, it's okay. Bullshit, is it okay? You know it isn't okay. So what do? Number 1, you dwell on it. So when I was a trainer and I'd see other trainers with their clients, and their clients would come in and say, I had the wrong food last night, I went out, I partied, drunk alcohol, missed cardio, whatever it may be. They would mostly say, well, you know what? It's okay. Let's put it behind us. We start afresh today. And I thought that was the worst advice somebody could give somebody. So if I had a client that would screw up, I'd want them to dwell on it. I would want them to dwell on that guilt, on that shame, how they felt at that precise moment. I'd want to extend out. I would want it to scar them. So they were reminded of how that felt every time that they'd put their hand towards the cookie jar or got invited to go out partying, or instead of exchanging, a glass of hydrocharge, they're taking a glass of vodka, whatever it may be. It would make them think. Maybe it wouldn't completely cure them to begin with, but they'd acknowledge it. They'd be much more aware of it. And as they become more aware of it and acknowledge it, that would magnify itself until it was almost talking to them in first person. So if you screw up, dwell on it. Remember what that feels like. Write it down. Write down why you did it. Like, I've had clients that are overseas and they'd have problems with binging or anything like that. And I'd say, make sure you take a picture of that candy bar in wrapper. Take a picture again when you're halfway through it, and then take a picture again with that empty wrapper and send that to me. Because that's making them feel a little bit more shame as they're going through the process. Because a lot of people will switch off. They don't acknowledge what they're doing. They're not present. They're just saying, oh, this is nurturing me. This is making me feel good. It's releasing some feel-good hormones. Oh, am I euphoric? So when you're actually taking images of it, writing it down, and you see that staring back at you, it's a wake-up call. So do it. Wake up. Number 2, identify those problems. Like, what are the problems that you have? Is it the donuts that get brought into the office? Everybody at the office always seems to have a bloody birthday, so everybody has to eat the cake. because shame on you if you don't? Or is it the way that you go home, which happens to go past your favorite restaurant or your fast food joint? Or is it the fact that your weaknesses is that you can't get your ass up in the morning? Your circadian rhythm is so that it wants to get your ass up at 10, and you know that means that you've already missed your workout if you've done that. So you need to identify these problems with clarity. Write it down. Expose those weaknesses then and put it up onto social networks. Let everybody know. These are the weaknesses. These are what you're trying to work on. You may have a spouse that lives with you, and instead of supporting you, they would probably go out and bring some fast food, some pizza home, popcorn, whatever it may be. So you need to expose your weakness to them. Let them know. There's no shame in that. Confront your problems. There's no shame in that. Expose your weakness. Let them know, I can't be around this. I really need your support. If you could do me a favor and not have pizza when I'm here, or if you are, pre-warn me so I can go out and do my cardio at that particular time. Then that's going to help you further identify your problems and fix those problems. If you don't identify them, how are you going to know what they look like? A lot of the time they're disguised and they just creep up on you. So, 2 points there. And then, as I said, you confront these problems, expose them. So what you need to do is think of like a splinter. You need to surface that splinter in order to get rid of it. So find out exactly what that problem is, expose it to everybody you know. Even I know some people that have actually had business cards made up and told people, these are my weaknesses, these are my strengths. I need to focus on my weaknesses. Having that transparency will provide you with even more accountability to make sure that you don't screw up. If you disguise these problems, much like if you're in a relationship and you just have the cold shoulder, you don't confront them. Nobody wants to confront them. Nobody does. It's embarrassing. It needs confrontation. Who wants confrontation? You have to. It may feel uncomfortable talking about it, thinking about it, discussing it, but you have to identify it, confront it, and expose it and surface it like a splinter just so you can get rid of it, okay? Now, you may have various weaknesses. Now, there's no shame in your own inability. And if you have shame in that inability, just grow up, man. Grow the fuck up. It's okay. Deal with it. You're an adult. But that weakness may be something that is genetic. Maybe it's psychological. Maybe it's biological. Maybe it's that chemical reaction in your brain. Whatever it may be, all you've got to do is focus more on those weaknesses instead of just hiding them and putting them away. You know, what do people normally do if they binge out on food? They don't do it in front of people. They'll go to the gas station and eat that food in their car. You need to expose yourself, as shameful as it is. Expose yourself, because that will stop you. The funny thing is that I used to eat during the night. I had major problems sleeping. Really bad. Like I'd sleep like 3 hours, but I thought, you know what? You're tough. You can deal with this. Don't be a pussy, man. So I would just deal with it. And I think, you know what? I can function. I'm resilient. I can push it. I'm a man. Wow. I must have had like too much testosterone seeping through me, coming out of my pores. I don't know what it was. But anyway, I was kind of, I'd think, you know what? You're hardcore doing this. You're still working out harder than everybody else. You're on no sleep. You're working twice as hard. And it was silly because I was kind of masking the problem. I wasn't identifying it. I was I was going through God, what is the word? It's as in denial. That's what it was. I was going through denial. But it wasn't until I actually identified the problem. I knew it was sleeping. I tried every supplement. I tried every trick in the book until I went to a clinic for 6 weeks and worked with a fantastic doctor called Dr. Spinalg. And we identified the problem. We identified it before we started fixing it. So a lot of people will focus on fixing a problem before identifying it. So if they eat bad foods, If you've cheated on your diet, you know what? You say, you know what? I'm not going to do it again. Next time that, somebody comes in and it's someone's birthday, I'm just going to go into the other room. Yeah, that is just putting a Band-Aid on it. You haven't identified the problem that allows you to relinquish to that birthday cake or whatever that weakness is. You have to dissect that problem. Much like Sherlock Holmes, you've got to dissect all the clues, come up with your strategy to find the evil culprit, and then you can quash it. So for me, like I said, it was sleeping. I went out. I identified it. I stopped eating during the night when I should have been sleeping, thinking, you know what, I'll justify it by it'll allow me to get more gains, man. And it didn't. It just caused more stress, more anxiousness, more depression. And I probably was more of a reaction than action. And I'm glad that I identified it because I feel 10 times better now. But I had to confront it. I had to confront it with a lot of money as well to stay in that clinic. But it was worth it. My life is so much better because of it. So, some of my better recovery methods when it comes to any sort of screw-ups is not to beat yourself up too much, but beat yourself up enough. You always hear of the term stimulate, don't annihilate. So I stimulate myself. I beat myself up a little bit. I don't, shame myself so bad that it leads into weeks. I just do it there and then, remind myself, I've been a bad boy. I haven't got anyone else to spank me, so I'll spank myself. But I'll remind myself of it. Now, sometimes I'll make voice notes. Sometimes I'll write it down on cards. Sometimes I'll just write down some notes. As long as it's staring back at me, every time that I think about that time that I have a bit of weakness, I acknowledge it, I'm present, I read it back to myself, and chances are, if that has taken me 10 minutes, I've convinced myself out of making that bad decision within those 10 minutes. Okay? Hopefully that has made some sense. So, let me know, are you guys liking this podcast or not? The only way that I can know is if you guys talk to me, guys and girls that is. So if you like this podcast, please do subscribe. Please do leave me a review. Go on to the iTunes. Leave me a review on there. I don't charge for this. Obviously, I don't charge for any of my content. All I ask is for your ears, and all I ask is for some actionable items from yourself that I've prescribed, and then share it with others. So if you could share it with others, great. If you subscribe, awesome. If you could leave a review, even better. My name is Kris Gethin. This is the Knowledge and Mileage Podcast, and I is out.